The, oh my god. Can't let enemies get close. Should do it. Clean.
Make a graceful exit, won't you? Present for you.
There it is. Yo guys, what is up? Max in a Borderlands 4 video, and today we're going to be going over all of the new weapons that were introduced in the How Rush Saves Mercenary Day bounty pack. I did already make a video on the Rooker sniper rifle, so we're not going to be talking about that. We are going to be going about the other weapons that are included in the vault card and that drop from the final boss, their ideal roles, and if they're worth using and if they're worth farming. There were a bunch of other weapons that were buffed in this patch that I'm probably going to have a separate video on. Guns like the Dark Beast are actually some of the strongest guns in the game right now. So we'll have a separate video for all of the weapons that are in base game that were buffed. This is just going to be talking about the new weapons. Hope you guys enjoy the breakdown. Let's do this. So the first weapon to talk about is the Inscriber pistol. This is the legendary perk Effigy. Hitting enemies spawns 4 projectiles behind them. Now, I originally, when I read this description, I thought it was going to work like the Convergence, where if you were hitting a single enemy, those projectiles would spawn behind them and come and converge on the enemy that you're shooting. That is not how that works. It basically functions a bit like a bore or high caliber 3, where your shots will, when you hit one enemy, will shoot 4 shots out behind them. So that those shots do a little bit of a spray. From my testing, seems not good. I even tested it with trying to get I got an impact roll, so it was doing a splash damage, and then I tested that to see if we could shoot above an enemy and have the initial hit them, and then all of the projectiles that it's shooting out with impact rounds also splashing them, so you could get technically 4x damage out of it. And I couldn't get the splash radius to really do that. It wasn't hitting them multiple times. So that doesn't seem to be very good with this weapon. And shooting it normally is fine enough. The gun does decent damage. However, where this weapon shines is as a tediore throw. Now, there's some very weird and very powerful interactions happening with this thing as a tediore throw. And it can roll a lot of different tediore parts. However, the tediore part that you're going to want to look for on this particular weapon is the tediore shooting. Thrown gun shoots enemies until out of ammo. We'll talk about that in a second. But you're going to want to look for that plus high mag size. The Inscriber can roll up to 42 in the mag. I do believe if you get a Ripper part, it increases the base damage. So even though you have a lot longer windup, the base damage for the throw will be higher. So that is what I would consider to be the Godroll. It technically can roll dataless ammo sniper swap, which gives it even more base damage because the sniper swap gives you a multiplier. However, you basically get one chuck because if you're setting it up properly, you want to increase the mag size as much as possible. And then throwing snipers, you have way less sniper ammo than you would pistol ammo. So for the highest single damage, you'd technically want Ripper, Sniper, tediore shooting. That's going to give you a crazy amount of damage. But you only really get 1 or 2 throws max if you're using the sniper rifle variant. So on our current little Vex tediore setup, if we shoot, let's throwing knife this guy so we can proc a bleed. And that is a 1.4 million bleed when it crits. Basically, this tediore throw hits really, really hard. So it's fantastic right now on Rafa, where you can do tediore builds. It also works really well on Vex. Vex gets Blood is Power, which actually works on tediore throws. And because we're throwing a single high instance of damage, we can proc bleeds with tediore throws. And Vex also gets Phase Pocket, which when your action skill is active, gives you 60% mag size, which is disgusting for tediore builds, because tediore really wants as high magazine as possible. That's what scales the damage of your throw the most. So Vex is really, really good with this thing. And then with some enhancement rolls to increase the magazine size even more, they just buffed Dadio, but it still gives 20% mag size, plus bullets to spare gives you 20% mag size. Those with some magazine parts and a like tediore enhancement for extra magazine size, and banger for you get 50% of your maximum loaded ammo when calculating thrown damage, allows this thing to hit literally millions of throw damage, which is very, very silly. Super, super cool. There's like another 2 million throw. It can basically one-shot a lot of the bosses in the game with a proper setup. So this is some data from Mr. JoeForLong, who is our resident tediore expert, testing the Inscriber with different parts. He was using these weapons with no bonuses and then equipped a class mod with a 24% gun damage increase. And as you can see from this data, when he put on a 24% gun damage class mod with a shooting part, he was actually getting a 72% damage increase rather than 24%. The combo roll, which I can show you, was only getting the actual stated 24%. Shooting homing was only getting the 24%, and shooting replicator was also getting the 72% increase, but has lower base damage. So for me personally, we're going to be rocking or mainly aiming for shooting rolls. The combo roll, I don't know if it can roll with as high of mag size. The only combo roll that I have is this one, which rolled with 17 mag size. I'm not sure if this combo roll, shooting replicator homing, which is insane, it's super rare. I don't know if that could roll with 42 mag. With the lower mag size, it still was doing less damage for me, but in theory that would technically be the best roll. Our next weapon is also a boss drop from Minister Screw, and that is the Rowdy Rider. Now, as far as I can tell, this will always roll with cryo. Its legendary perk is overwhelming, with +2 ricochet projectiles on critical hits. Now, this does seem to be affected by the Jacob's bounce pass roll, so you can get additional ricochets plus those 2 projectiles if you are using a bounce pass Jacob's enhancement. This thing, at least from what I can tell, for bossing, the best roll that you can get is Torg stickies plus the alt fire hand crank. The hand crank allows you to fire this way faster, and Torg stickies obviously benefit from fire rate increases, and if you stack them up really quickly, this thing actually does decent damage. I was struggling getting this thing to kill bosses until I got like quite literally this roll. Now, the one thing that is quite awkward on the Rowdy Rider is it has the ability to roll less crit damage instead of positive crit damage. I have yet to find a positive crit damage roll. I've heard that they are out there, but yes, for like bossing on this thing, I would try to look for a Torg sticky with the hand crank and positive crit damage. For mobbing with the Rowdy Rider, I would recommend looking for the dataless shotgun ammo swap. This changes the weapon from firing a single projectile into firing multi-projectiles, which can all ricochet and will increase your damage and your mobbing ability. It feels really, really good. For a secondary part, you can get Torg impact rounds for even more damage, which I think is great. You can also get Ripper for more damage. I personally don't like Ripper for mobbing, so this would be my god roll. Dataless shotgun ammo swap with Torg impact rounds. Feels really, really good, and I think it's where this weapon shines is as a mobbing weapon with the ricocheting projectiles plus like bounce pass as a Jacob's enhancement. This thing just shreds through groups of enemies. Really, really satisfying to use. All right, that is it for the boss drop weapons. Now we have the vault card weapons. The first is the Missilaser. Now, this is a pretty unique weapon. It comes with the mystical legendary perk that its underbarrel fires sticky rockets. The main barrel fires a laser that detonates attached rockets, each dealing... mine has 4,183 damage on it. I don't think this one is a particularly good roll. From redeeming a few of these, it doesn't seem like there's much variation that this can roll. But this thing has one major downside / flaw that I think is holding it back from becoming really, really good. So if we fire this thing, the tracking on it is actually pretty great. It'll fire these stickies, and then you shoot the laser, it detonates the stickies. And it's a pretty decently strong combo. The underbarrel comes back relatively quickly. Like, I already have the stickies back again, so we can do that and then shoot the stickies. The big issue that this gun has is that, unlike literally every other sticky projectile in the game, this does not scale with more stickies. So if you have 200 stickies on an enemy, or you have 10, each of those stickies are still dealing the same amount of detonation damage. On literally any other sticky weapon in the game, for example this, you get your explosion damage increased by a percentage per sticky on an enemy. So if you're using this on, for example, Rafa with Bullet Buddy Deluxe, and you can get infinite detonations and infinite stickies on a boss, it doesn't actually make it so it does any more damage because you're not scaling your damage based on the amount of stickies. So this always does the same amount of damage, kind of regardless of the build that you're playing, which in my opinion feels kind of bad. I do wish this functioned like a normal sticky projectile. You could do some ridiculous boss melts if you had that setup with like a normal setup on like Infinite Harlow or Ranger Rafa. It still does pretty decent damage, but because it can't scale sticky damage like other weapons, I do think it falls behind, as long as it's taking you more than one damage rotation, as in you have to detonate those stickies more than once, it immediately falls behind literally every other sticky weapon in the game. Even purples will like out DPS this thing if they can, use it well on it, like an infinite ammo build. So decent weapon. Not really much part variation that I can tell. This gun feels like it's like one buff away from being really good, but right now I'd say it's pretty middle of the pack. The next vault card weapon is the A-King Roil. This rolls with the hydropower legendary property. Overheating prevents firing. Switching modes reduces heat. Basically, if you're using this gun and you shoot, as soon as your heat builds up all the way, you literally cannot fire. Like, I'm holding down the shoot button, and it'll just keep not being able to shoot because it'll overheat. So if you swap modes, you'll reduce the heat, and you can swap modes again. And so you can, like, spam swapping your heat so that you can keep shooting this thing. And, like, theoretically, this could be, like, an interesting and engaging mechanic. If the gun did enough damage to put up with the, like, BS of having to shoot this thing properly. However, this thing does not do good damage, and it doesn't warrant this, like, mechanic. Every other gun will just out DPS this thing because you constantly have to stop shooting just so that the gun doesn't overheat. And if it does overheat, it literally prevents you from firing. I think this is genuinely one of the most frustrating and worst guns in the game. I don't know why it exists, and I wouldn't recommend using it or farming it. And the last weapon to mention is the Hardpoint. This is pretty much the, like, Devil's Foursome from Borderlands 3, except it shoots 5 projectiles instead of 4. This will default roll with the sticky mode, and it can do all right damage if you can line up the shots to properly hit an enemy. However, they literally need to be, like, in the perfect spot in order to get all the projectiles to work. It's an all-right weapon against, like, a few bosses in the game that have a big enough hitbox that you don't need to worry about lining up these shots. But I just don't enjoy this mechanic at all. And as you can see right now, if you have, like, high caliber on, the projectile speed really messes with this thing and makes it even harder to, like, line up where you want these projectiles to land. So I personally don't really like this gun at all. It definitely rewards good placement, but I don't think the reward of good placement is worth like using, as in, like, you could just use non-annoying weapons and deal more damage. So not a fan of this thing. Don't love the converging projectile mechanic on weapons like this, where there's such a wide area where it doesn't do damage. We've had converging projectiles before in the past that have sweet spots that you can do really cool things but still deal damage to enemies, even if you're, like, not in that exact sweet spot. Like, for example, the conference call. So not a huge fan of this thing. Wouldn't really recommend using it. However, if you're looking to play a positioning game, it's solid damage. All right, now for our tier list. Don't worry too much about where the rest of the weapons are in this tier list, because this needs updating. For example, I haven't updated it with like the Dark Beast and Onslaught and Asher's Rise, all which are like way better now. Just kind of want to place these weapons. We'll have a separate video for those. But the Rooker right now, easy S tier, ridiculous for mobbing and bossing. One of the strongest guns in the game. It is very, very good. The Aching Roil is horrible. I hate it. I would never want to use it ever. Don't know why it exists. The Hardpoint, I think, is probably like top of C tier, maybe. It can do decent damage. It's just unenjoyable to use. The Inscriber, I think, is A tier. Does a ton of damage. It's not like, I don't know if I'd really use it for mobbing, but for bossing, it can do great damage. Our S tier is definitely like weapons that I would use for both. The Rowdy Rider, I think, is also probably a solid A tier weapon. It is very, very solid for mobbing. Not great for bossing, but with the Jacobs, with like the crank and the Torgue stickies, it can do some bossing. And then the Missilaser, probably the most B tier weapon. It is solid, but it's not quite up there in A or S, and that's kind of how I'd rank these weapons right now. Guys, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. Overall, the weapons that drop from the new boss are quite good, and the weapons from the vault card are quite bad. I really hope that some of these weapons get buffed. I'm a little bit disappointed, or a bit disappointed that every time that we keep getting this new content, I feel like a lot of the times the weapons and the gear just like isn't all that great. Like I was underwhelmed by the Halloween event weapons, and besides like the Rooker and I guess the Inscriber and the Rowdy Rider, those are all very solid. But all the vault card weapons are just pretty meh to me. If not, they're like okay at best. I really do hope that for future content, if they're going to be adding new weapons into the game, that they have a place and that they have a niche. Even if they're not the best weapons, they don't need to be super overpowered and kill all of the bosses in the game, but they need to have a role and a niche and something that they do that like makes them worthwhile using, maybe on super niche builds or super specific things. But most of these weapons, there's not really something that you can really build around for them. They're just not great, and so I think that is definitely a miss. But that's going to do it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Take care. Peace.